All right, welcome back. Today is Q1 week 2. This is actually day 1, part B. We're doing Booty Beach. We have already done the beginning of the Pirates Preferences, which is where you capitalize all your R's. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so we already did this. We set up some preferences. We changed our scene undo to 500. We got rid of our view cube, and we set our generic units to centimeters. I think we also made sure that our statistics are up. So now, today, we're actually going to build something. Booty box. We're going to have a box to put our booty in. All right? Great. So let's do it. So this is where we ended up last time. A bunch of these dumb shapes just littering our area. Let's go ahead and select each one of these using the select tool, which is Q. You'll notice if you smash Q, you get a bunch of different options. Go ahead and hit it until you get the square, or you can click and hold and just select square. So I'm going to select both of those and hit delete. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to build that box, that empty chest, if you will. So what I want to do is I want to hit the front view. So I hit F for front, and then I'm going to hold Alt and use my middle mouse button to scroll up. Now that makes my screen looks really odd, so I'm going to hit P for perspective. So I hit P, so now things that are in the distance are farther away. You can see our grid gets bigger as it comes closer. So we're going to click, go to the Create tab, go to the Box button. We're actually going to do some keyboard entry, okay? There's two types of creation method, a cube and a box. A cube means it's going to be the same on all sides, so any way I change it, it's always going to be a cube. I right click to disable that. So, but I want a box because I want it to be more chest-like. Remember, it's going to look a little more like that. All right, so we're going to create this box, and then we're going to inset the top of the box and pull it down. Then we're going to copy it, change the pivot point, and then move it so that it sits on top, and then we're going to create a couple cylinders to act like hinges. So that's the idea. All right, great. So like I said, we're going to create a box. Now we could just simply create a box like this if we wanted to, but what I want to do is I want to sort of go through how to use keyboard entry. So in the Create tab under Geometry, click Box, and then come down here to Keyboard Entry and open it up by clicking on Keyboard where it says Keyboard. Anywhere in this header will work. You can see that the plus means it can get bigger. So it means there's a rollout menu that you can hide or show. Anyway, so X, Y, Z is where it will be, where it will like grow out of. So that's X, Y position on this grid, and Z is up and down, above or below the grid. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually leave all this at 0 because we want our box to start at 0, 0, 0, which is great. Our length I'm going to set to 10 centimeters. All right. Our width is going to be 20, and our height up and down is going to be 10 centimeters. So you can type those in. 10. You can just type in 10, 20, 10. Notice I don't type in the CM. It automatically adjusts that because we set up our preferences to do so. Then I hit the Create button. Boom. Now I've got a box. Now your box may not be blue. In fact, it's probably not blue. And blue is not really a good color for what we want. So let's go ahead and change it. Okay. You can come up here to this little sphere, or you can hit the M key. Either one opens the Material Editor. So click on this button, and a window pops up. Great. Now here are our swatches. Now yours may look like this, which is fine. This is the Slate Material Editor. Okay. We're going to actually change this and use the Compact Material Editor. So go to Modes over here, and then select Compact Material Editor, and then it should look like this. Now you may have more of these little bubbles. You may have less. It doesn't really matter. They're all called swatches. Okay, just like when you go buy paint, they have little things of paint that you can see. So these spheres are swatches. So I'm going to click on the first swatch, and I'm going to call it Wood, W-O-O-D. This is where we title it. Okay, and then you can click anywhere in here. Now our color, how we can adjust color is down here under Diffuse. Right here it's gray. So it doesn't look like our object's gray yet. So we can actually click here and drag and then let go on our box, and then it turns the color we're using. So now this, notice the little corners have like little dog ears in them. That means it's active in the scene and we have that object highlighted. If we highlight something else, you'll notice it's got corners, but they're not bright anymore. If I select it, they're bright. See how that works? This lets you know it's used in the scene, but you're not using it. You're not selected. You haven't selected that object. Notice that my edges are still light blue. That's because my color is still light blue for this object. If I change it to like, I don't know, dark blue, I'll actually be able to sort of see those edges maybe a little better, maybe not. I don't know. You could change it to black if you really wanted to. That doesn't change it much from dark blue. Anyway, so this is our wood color, but our wood is not gray. We need to change the color there. So go ahead and click in this gray spot, and then it brings up a color. Now you can find like a brown somewhere. Usually it's in the darker side of reds and yellows. All right, I'm going to get that brown looking brown. Notice it's already changing for us. All right, that looks pretty good. Maybe a little more reddish for me. That's good. I like it. You can do yours whatever color you want. It doesn't have to be brown. I'm just going with a pirate theme here. So I'm going to click OK. So you'll notice this is brown and it says wood. It's called wood here and it's right there. So we're going to come back to the swatch thing later, but for now, that's a good start. So our box here, we can't really do much with it. If we go into our modify panel, you'll see it's all the same stuff we had before. We could add more segments and stuff like that, but really what we want to do is we want to take this top face, okay, we want to inset it and then extrude it in. So we have like that sort of inset here, okay? So let's do it. So the thing is, we can't do it in this current system. We have to create or convert it into an editable poly. So go ahead and right click on the object. Now when you do that, you'll see these on your screen. You see two little boxes, but on my screen and on your screen when you use the program, you're going to see a whole menu that's about this big. And at the bottom, there's an option called Convert To. And then you take the little arrow over and there's another little menu and it says Convert to Editable Poly. It's usually the second one down right about here. So go ahead and convert to editable poly. And when you do that, you'll notice all these options change in the modify panel. Speaking of which, let's go ahead. So we have this selected under box. Right now it's called box 1. I'm going to call it chest. Okay, so now it's called chest. It's great, and I can click on it again. Now each one of these are our sub-objects that we can select. Vertex are the points of the box. There were two edges meet. Edges are things like this. This red. Notice whenever you highlight something, it turns red. That means red is a bad color to use for anything else. So just heads up on that. Reds and pinks and even like reddish purples are all not good choices for colors in 3D Studio until you're basically done with modeling. Anyway, back to the issue at hand. So these are sub-object selections, okay? Vertex, you can grab, if you hit W, you can move them around, right? I can make a different sort of shape. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to hold Control and hit Z, just like in Microsoft Word, and you can undo. Border. You'll notice there's no way I can select a border. A border is only when you have a deleted face. So I cut a hole there. I'm going to grab it now, and you'll notice now I have it will select that. Okay, I'm going to undo twice, 3 times to get back to where I was. So a border is whenever there's a hole in the geometry. Right now our box is contiguous. It has no holes, so that's good. So next is polygon. I often call this face. Okay, a polygon is anything that's surrounded by edges. All right, it's a geometric shape that's surrounded by edges. All right, you need at least 3 edges to have a polygon. Okay, without 3 edges, you can't have a polygon. All right, and finally, element. Element is all the polygons that are connected to each other that are not separate objects. And you'll learn more about that later. But basically, if I've got a Minecraft pig and it's got a cube for a head, if I select element, I can select just the head because it's a separate cube. Or I could select just the body because it's a separate cube. It's still part of the same animal, so it's an element, but it's not the same actual geometry. I said that weird. Okay, so anyway, we're going to go back to face. Now, all of these correspond to numbers on the number line. So if you hit number 1 on the number line above Q, you'll get vertex. If you hit number 2, you get edge. 3 is border. 4 is polygon. 5 is element. So go ahead and hit the number 4 on your number line, and then click anywhere out here. You can drag a box just to make sure you don't have anything selected. And then click the top. So the top should turn red. And once again, I can rotate around by holding Alt and pressing down and dragging with my middle mouse button. What we're going to do is we're going to inset. So down below this, oh, and if you only have one set of tools, you can actually expand them out like that. See how your cursor can turn into a double-sided arrow? I'm going to drag that out so I can see more of my tools. All right, so down here under Edit Polygons. Now it might be hidden like this, but we click on it where it says the little plus and it says Edit Polygons. And if there's no little plus, then you don't need to click on it. You can just sort of experiment anyway. So we're going to inset. Now when you click this, you can actively choose like this. Like, oh, I'm going to inset it. Now you can do really bad things. Like, here, I'm going to undo. So if I click and push up, you'll notice the face that I've created starts becoming smaller. Smaller, smaller, and then it changes and becomes like oddly stripy. And then it changes worse and becomes even more stripy. What it's doing is it's overlapping on itself. Whenever you see this sort of stripiness, this is called Z fighting. That's when two planes or two faces are trying to share the exact same location. It's very bad. We don't want to do that. All right. Generally, we will do a lot to avoid it. So for now, notice how I pushed up. If you already did this and you let go, like I just did, go ahead and undo that. So hold Control and hit Z. So undo until you get just this highlighted. If this is highlighted or if it's not, it doesn't matter. What we're going to do is make sure its inset is not highlighted. Now click the little button next to it, which is the settings button. Alright, now the settings button allows me to actually adjust this with a set of tools. Now the tools are very small and you can't see mine because of course the way my software records doesn't show you these little floating windows, which stinks. But you'll see it's a little black. It says Inset, and then there's a little there's two brackets around what looks like a window. If you highlight over or hover your mouse over that section with the little caret pointing down, you can choose group or polygon. Well, that's odd. Those show up. All right. Or if you click here, you can actually, the next thing down is a number, and that's how much this thing is going to actually inset. So I'm going to inset this by a number. I'm actually going to highlight that number and type in 0.5. You'll notice when I do that, it automatically sets the edges of my box to that. And then click the little, if you click the check mark, that basically confirms that's what you want, and you click it again and it'll go away. All right. If you click the plus, it'll say, great, do it. You want me to do it, and you want to do it again, so it gets ready to do another one. Okay, so we'll explain that some more, or you can ask in class if it's confusing, or shoot a comment on the thing below on the comment section. All right, now next we're going to use the extrude settings. Once again, we're using the settings button. We're not using the extrude. We could click on extrude and pull it down like this, but I undid that by right-clicking before I let go. Instead, we're going to click the settings button. Okay, and now we're going to adjust it. Now we know that our box is 10 centimeters tall. So that means if I take that top layer and drop it down negative 9.5, that should be exactly 0.5 centimeters away from the bottom. And it looks pretty good, but the best way to check is hit F for front, all right, and then hit F3. F3 on the above the number line, the actual function 3 number. So you can see what that does is that puts us into wireframe mode, and you can see it up here too. All right. So wireframe mode allows us to see through it, which means I can see that yes, the bottom of my chest here is aligned perfectly where I want it to be. Great. All right, cool. So I'm going to click the little check mark, and then I click it again, and it'll go away. And now I'm going to hit F3 again to get my box back, and then hit P for perspective. So now I've got my box. All right, you see we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, now I need to make a lid. Now the lid can be made from this box, actually. We're going to make the lid that matches this box. Okay, so the easiest way to do it is whenever we have something and we drag it while holding shift, we make a copy. Hold shift and drag. Whoops. See what happened there? I had the face selected. I don't want that. I'm going to right click and undo. I'm going to make sure I deselect polygon. Make sure I have the entire chest, which I do. I don't have just the face selected or something like that. I've got the entire chest. I just want to make sure that nothing over here is selected. And then I'm going to, you don't actually have to do this. I'm going to show you. You can if you want, but I'm going to undo it as soon as I do it. I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to drag it over. And it says, do you want to make a copy? And I say sure. So now I've got two options. Now, or two boxes. I'm actually going to hold control and hit Z to undo that. All right. This time I'm going to hit shift and drag over. And we're going to look at the options here. We've got a copy, an instance, or a reference. Okay, now a copy makes a totally new object that is its own thing. You can adjust it and you mess with it and it's its own thing. If you make an instance, whatever you do to this version will do what you do on the opposite. So watch, I'm going to make this an instance and I'm going to grab vertices, I'm going to drag this down. When I do that, it adjusts the original. So they're linked. They're like twins, no matter what. All right? They're like, you know, whatever. They're like twins. I was going to try and come up with something, but I didn't. All right, I'm going to hold shift and drag it over. And this time I'm going to create a reference. Click OK. Now the reference, once again, let me get editable poly. All right, so if I grab this time, I can move that and nothing happens. But if I select this and move it, also nothing happens. Okay, a reference is very similar, except usually it only goes one direction. So anything that I modify or any selection that modification that I do to this one will affect both along those lines. All right, cool. So next. Oh man, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so there's my box. We're going all the way back. Undo, undo, undo. Okay, cool. So we're back with the original box. So you can start following along from here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a copy of this box. Okay, a copy, not an instance. So I'm going to hit E for my rotate tool. Okay, click up there. Now I'm going to hit this button here, which is angle snap. The hotkey for angle snap is A. So if you tap A, it toggles on and off. I want it on because I want to make sure that this is going to be perfectly 180 degrees. So I'm going to hold shift and rotate it like that. So it's 180 degrees, and you can see right there that it's 180 degrees. Now when I let go, it gives me an option, clone options. I want to create a copy, and I'm going to call this lid. Okay, now I'm going to hit W. Now I could just move it up here and try and align it so it's perfect like this. But what I'd rather do is snap it. See, if I hit F for front, I know that my box is 10 centimeters tall. I know that this grid is 10 centimeters set. And if yours isn't, you can right click, go to home grid, and make sure your grid spacing is 10 centimeters. All right, once again, that's right click on the snaps toggle, go to the home grid tab and make sure that's set to 10. All right, now, if I make sure this snaps toggle is on, you can see your snaps. Right clicking on the snaps shows you what you'll snap to. Now there's grid points, which are these little points here, and you'll notice when snapping's on, I've got this yellow plus that sort of connects. All right, there's vertices or vertex, so it won't snap to anything except a vertex. You can see like this vertex here, it'll snap to those. And then there's grid lines, so you can see the actual line. So from the front, I could snap to just the line. Okay, this is great when you use it in conjunction with the Options tab. The Options tab under the Grid and Snaps toggle, you want to make sure on the Options tab you've got Enable Axis Constraints. So go ahead and click on Enable Axis Constraints. It's very, very important. So make sure this is highlighted yes. Enable axis constraints. Go ahead and close this. Now when I drag, you can see that because I have snapping on, it sort of snaps to the grid. I want to snap it to this top part and let go. So now I've got my box on top of my box, and they share the exact same spot. Now when I rotate this, if I just hit E for rotate, I can going to turn my snaps off. I'll leave angle snap on. If I rotate this, it doesn't rotate like a lid would. It rotates from the top, and that's not where we want it. We want it, if we hit left view, I'm on the left, we don't want it to rotate from here because this is our chest and this is our lid. We want it to rotate from down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change where it rotates from by changing the hierarchy tab. So we've talked about the modify tab. Now it's a hierarchy tab. The hierarchy tab, I'm going to change the pivot. So click Effect Pivot Only. Make sure you're on Select and Move, and make sure your snap settings are on. Right-click your snaps toggles, and then make sure instead of grid lines, we are going to snap to vertex. All right, click OK, or close this. Now I'm going to make sure I grab just this Y-axis. And I notice it'll only move up and down, even though I move left and right. I'm going to move it to here so it snaps to that back corner. I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to move it. Then I'm going to move it along the X-axis only until it snaps to back there again. Okay, now I'm going to turn Effect Pivot Only off. And now if I hit E to rotate, it rotates from the back, just like it should if it was a box, if it was a lid. All right, so I'm going to undo because I rotated it and I want it to be nice and set. All right, great. So now from the left view, we're almost done. What we're going to do now is we're going to modify the top so it looks a little more like a pirate lid. Okay, so I'm going to hit the number 1. All right, I go into the modify tab and hit the number 1. Okay, that allows me to adjust these vertices. So from the left, so hit L. All right. Then I want to go to the left view and zoom in. I want to marquee select, which is the box. Remember, you can select marquee selection up here. Marquee select both of these. Make sure ignore back facing is off. That's right here. Ignore back facing. Make sure that's off. And then what I'm going to do is hit R on the keyboard, and that allows me to squeeze things together, resize them. And I'm going to resize them along this X-axis only, like that. Squeeze them down. All right. Cool. So make sure it looks good. So once again, from the left view, now hit W. I'm going to move it down so it's like that. I'd like it to be a little more curved. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to insert a loop. So I'm going to add more geometry. Go to Edge mode, hit the number 2, or click here. All right. And now up here, you should have your modeling tools. Okay. If you don't have them, you can go to Customize, Show UI, Show Ribbon. Yeah, Customize, Show UI, Show Ribbon. Now under Modeling, each one of these buttons are tabs. We want the Modeling tab, and we want to go to the Loops tab. Okay. Here we can insert and remove loops. So grab an edge, this edge right here, and you have to be very specific. You've got to grab that edge only. And then go to Loops, Insert Loop. What that does is it gives us more geometry to work with. Now from the left view, I hit L for left. I hit W. I'm going to hit S to turn snapping off. W is so I can select and move. I'm just going to bring this up a little bit like that. Notice I marquee select and then drag it up on the Y-axis. Okay. All right, great. Now go to the Create tab, hit the E key, and rotate this so it looks like it's open. Great. Yeah, it's starting to look pretty good. All we need to do now is add some hinges. All right, now to add a hinge, add our hinges are just cylinders. Cylinders are easy, they're right here. Now I could create a cylinder like this and do it like that, but what I'd rather do is build it so it's already aligned with what I want. So I'm going to undo that by holding Control Z. I'm going to hit F for front. Okay, actually I hit L for left because I want the hinge to be right here. I'm going to hit S for snap. Make sure that my snaps are on grid points, not anything else for now. And there I should be able to just click and drag like that. Now I clicked and dragged once, and now I can click and drag again. I can press up or down. I'm going to press up and then click again. Now if I zoom out a little bit and scroll over, you can see my hinge is probably a little too big, and that's okay. Let's look at what it should be. For one, it doesn't need to have this many edges, and it doesn't need to have this many loops either. So let's go ahead and get rid of these height segments. So you can set that down to 1. And for sides, let's go ahead and go with 8. Okay, 8 should probably be enough. For cap segments, just go ahead and set that to 1 for now. This is an n-gon, but we won't worry about it right now. So hit the front view, left view, hit left. Now hit W. Alright, and now make sure snapping is off. So I'm going to click snapping off. And I'm just going to use the x-axis only, and I'm going to click and drag and set this roughly where I want it to be. You know what? I'm going to turn snapping back on, and I'm going to make sure it's set to vertex. So now when I move it, I can make sure it snaps to right where it should be. Alright, great. Turn snap off again, and look at where your hinge is. So from the left view, my hinge is too big, so I'm going to hit R and scale it. Now you'll notice the widget, I'm going to make my widget bigger. You don't need to make yours bigger. If I can grab here, I'll resize it just one direction. If I grab it here, the whole thing will resize. I'll show you. So if I grab it here, it shrinks in, but it stays the same length. If I grab it from the center, the whole thing shrinks. Okay? Either one works, whichever one you prefer. I think I'm going to grab the whole thing, and now I'm going to look at it from the top. Alright, and I'm going to hit W, and now I'm going to move this one so it's almost to the end. I'm going to try and line up this with that edge, just like that. Now I'm going to create a copy by holding Shift and dragging it over this way to the same rough place. I'm going to call this Hinge. Actually, I'm going to type capital R _Hinge. So, actually, I guess that's the left. Oh, what do you think, the right or left? I'll call it right. Okay, right hinge, and I'm going to select this by hitting Q and selecting the other hinge and call it L _hinge. Alright, cool. Now, we need to recolor these things. So I'm going to click on the material editor, and I'm going to make a new swatch. I'm going to call it iron. Okay, and I'm going to change the color to like a dark gray. Click OK. I'm actually going to select the hinge, hold Control, and add to my selection by clicking. So now I've got two things selected. You can actually see over here it says 2 objects selected. Now I can actually take this iron and put it on both by clicking this Assign Material to Selection button, which is right here. And you'll notice they turn brown. Or actually black. So all we need to do now is link everything together, because what happens if I want to move this chest around, I hit W and I go, alright, I'm going to put it over here. Oh, no. So what we need to do is we need to link it together. So the linking button is up here. It's this chain looking thing. So what we want to do is we want to say, alright, this lid needs to be connected to the hinges. Alright? And the hinges are connected to the box. Both of them. So click each one, click and drag and let go. So now when you do that and you hit W, if you move the box, everything moves with it. If you move the lid though, it can move by itself. So this is a parent-child relationship. The child can do whatever it wants. Alright? It can move around without moving the parent. But if the parent moves, the child moves with it. So if I take this and move it, it comes with it. Same thing with this. Alright? So these two are linked to this, and this is linked to that hinge. You could take this and link it to the chest. Either way will work. Okay. Anyway, hit Q, hit W, and you should be able to move it around. All right. We have reached the end. We have made our box. So let's go ahead and save this. I'm going to save this as, I'm going to call it Q1 week 2 day 1B end. And it will be available for you in the Google Doc. Save. So you've got a chest that's ready to go. Remember, if you want to move the chest piece itself. There you go. And that's it. I'm going to save it again so it's a little bit better. There. Save. So, great. Good job. We're done with that part. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you for the next part of day 1, which is day 1C, where we are going to keep going here. Do our mounds of booty. Mounds of booty. That's next time. All right? So I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.